Welcome to the Vue In-place Editor tutorial. The Syncfusion Vue In-place Editor is used for editing a value dynamically within its context and having the value updated in the server. In this video, I'll show you how to easily add the Syncfusion Vue In-place Editor component to your Vue app. You'll learn how to configure a TextBox, DatePicker, and Dropdown List with the In-place Editor, and how to change the editor mode. I will start the Vue application creation process using the Vue v command. Make sure you have installed the latest versions of Vue and Node.js to follow along. I'll use Visual Studio Code as my editor and show the output in the Chrome browser. To create a project in Vue, I open Visual Studio Code and type the npm create v.latest command. I name the app my Vue app. Next, I choose Vue as the framework and JavaScript as the variant. A Vue project is created. I navigate to the newly created Vue app and install the required dependencies using the npm install command. Now the application is configured with the default settings of a Vue project. To use the In-place Editor component, I type the command npm install at syncfusion/ej2 Vue In-place Editor -- save to install the package along with its dependencies. Next, I must register the trial license key to use Syncfusion components. I open the main.js file and import the register license method from the Syncfusion ej2 base package. Using this method, I register the trial license key. For instructions on how to generate a trial key, refer to the link in this video's description. To add the In-place Editor component, I open the app Vue file and remove the default code. Then I import the In-place Editor component from the Syncfusion Vue In-place Editor package. To access the CSS styles of the In-place Editor component, I import the necessary CSS references. I also add dependent CSS references like buttons, pop-ups, and inputs. Next, I'll design a form in which a person can modify basic information such as their name, date of birth, and gender. Inside the template section, I add a division element with the class container. Then I add a table with 3 rows inside the division element tag. To display a title, I add a heading tag and add the text, modify the details. For the name text box, I am going to use the Syncfusion Vue text box component. I set the field name to name. Within the table row, I add the EJS In-place Editor tag with the type text. To add a placeholder for the text box, I define an object, text model, and set the placeholder property to enter your name, which will be displayed in the text box as its description. Then I assign this object to the model property. To align the element, I add the text align and margin bottom styles in the style tag. I save the changes and run the application using the npm run dev command. Looking here, a text box is displayed to add text. If I want to show the default input value in the text box, then in the In-place Editor tag, I add the value property and set an appropriate value in it. Here you can see the defined input value. Next, I will show you how to add the DatePicker component to set and modify the date of birth. In the second row, I set the field name to date of birth. Then I add the In-place Editor component with the type date. To add the placeholder text, I define the dateModel object and set the placeholder property to select date of birth, which will be displayed as its description. Now, to set a default date in the component, I define the dateValue object and set a custom date. Then I assign the dateModel object to the model property and the dateValue object to the value property of the In-place Editor component. Now the In-place Editor component shows the DatePicker with the default date. To change the current date, I click the DatePicker icon and choose a date. To let users choose a gender, I'll use the Dropdown List component. I set the field name to gender first. I then add the In-place Editor component using the type Dropdown List. To list the gender options, I define the array gender data with two values, male and female. Then I create an object called GenderModel. Within this, I bind this gender data array to the data source property and set the placeholder property to select a gender. You can add as many gender values as you want to yours. I assign this object to the model property of the In-place Editor component. See the drop-down list displayed in the gender field. You can select any of the options from the list. By default, the pop-up mode is rendered when the editor opens, but I can also change the mode to inline. To do that, I set the mode property to inline in the drop-down list. Now the editor is displayed in inline mode in the gender field when editing the input values. Notice here, by default, the In-place Editor input element is highlighted with a dotted underline to show an interactive UI. To remove the dotted line, I set the data underline property to false. Now there is no dotted line in the gender field. Let's wrap up this video. We saw how to easily add the Syncfusion Vue In-place Editor component to a Vue application and explored how to integrate TextBox, DatePicker, and Dropdown List components, as well as how to change the editor's mode. If you want to try out the example used in this video, you can download it from the GitHub link in this video's description. I have also shared a link in the description where you can learn about obtaining a free license key to use our Vue components through our community license if you are eligible. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel.